Yo, what it do to my noodles? Welcome to the channel. I'm Avocadex. Wasn't sure at first where I wanted to take the channel because I have so many interests. If I wanted to do Pokemon stuff, anime stuff. Decided to go down with the art. I've always been passionate about art since I was like elementary school and never really wanted to post because I always felt like my artwork wasn't good enough for social media or to really share, and decided to just go ahead and like take the leap and just start doing it because that finish line is always going to move no matter how good I get or how I feel. Right, I'm always going to want to be better than I am, which is a good thing. And I'm also trying not to compare myself to others because you see all kind of great art on YouTube. You see some goofy stuff that does really well, but really it's just people doing what they love, and people on here being pretty supportive so far with the drawings that I have posted, and trying to switch from just the YouTube shorts to more long form content. So without further ado, let's get into today's drawing. So today we're gonna shift gears. Instead of drawing a Pokemon, we're gonna go for draw One Piece, draw Lilith, Dr. Vegapunk. I don't remember what number. Personality. She is of Dr. Vegapunk. Comment below if you know. Just gonna get a rough sketch here. Super light with the pencil. Get where I want to get some placement. Where the head is gonna be, more or less. Something I always do. Then it's anime style, so the proportions aren't exact, especially One Piece. I think I'm pretty happy with that. More guidelines here where the mouth or more or less is gonna be. Chin. Let me know if you guys want to see a tutorial on how I break down proportions of a head, drawing a face. Normally I do push myself to do like full body, right? And try, you don't want to avoid things that you're not good at. Something I always struggled with, or still struggle, with drawing like hands and feet. I am working off a reference image that I have off to the side. Right. It's because it's a reference image. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can still put your own twist on things. Challenge is if, let's say you do mess up, right? And don't want to just scrap the whole drawing. Challenge yourself, see if you can find a way to fix it. See if you can incorporate some other things, or maybe you can change the drawing around and make that mistake work for you. Maybe you can hide it with some coloring, right? Maybe hair was out of place. Maybe you can change up the hairstyle. Just because it was over doesn't mean your piece of art is trash now and you got to start over, or it wasn't perfect. This is our rough sketch down. Next we're going to bust out some fine liners. Here we have the Ohuhu fine line drawing pens. It's got an 8-pack all the way from 0.1 thickness, or actually from 0.05, if you can see that. 0.05 going all the way up to 1, and with the brush nib. See that? I love these. I need to get the regular alcohol markers. Need to upgrade my set. Right now I just have a cheap set bought off Amazon. But hey, it works and it's good practice. So we're gonna go something pretty light. I think I'm gonna go with the 0.2 here. Focus. Staying within those lines. If I feel like something needs to be a little different, and I'm not confined to the lines I made before, still do what I want. And here I'm trying not to stay in one spot for too long, because then you got that bleed out. You leave the pen in one spot and kind of be somewhat fast. I go over things too many times, so even if you mess up, you still got to be decisive. And if you're ever thinking about starting a drawing YouTube or just posting your work, I'd say just do it, because for a long time I always felt like I wasn't good enough to be posting my artwork. I had to get better first. I didn't buy the fancy markers because I wouldn't make anything good enough for them. And really, even though I still may not feel like I'm good enough now, but if I never do it, then I'm never gonna do it. So just start posting it. People on here are actually pretty supportive, so I say just go for it. Now we'll let this sit for a second, dry, come in, erase the sketch lines, and then we'll start picking out our colors. These are just literally called art marker. Set I bought off Amazon literally years ago, but they still work. And it was 120 markers, I think, or maybe 100 markers, like $40. So you can still make something decent with cheap markers. Don't feel like you need to go buy Copic markers or Prismacolor or you can't make good artwork without the good markers. But here, literally, I just have just a marker pad. Literally, all I do is scribble, I pick out my color palette, more or less, and test on here always before putting it on my drawing, just to see how some colors will blend together, see what it looks like. Because you'll notice on a lot of brands, you'll get a marker, right? And it won't match. For example, this says light green. It looks more green on camera, but in person it looks very yellow. And then if I were to drop it, look at, first of all, the nib is a completely different color than the cap. And the color is super different from the tip. So without me testing it here, imagine if I would have wanted to put some yellow on my drawing, and that's the color that came out. And I picked 2 or 3 colors, starting with the lightest of that color and then going darker for my shadows. And I'll test here a little bit, see how some bright pink goes against that. Quite a bit darker, a little purpley almost. See what I mean again though, testing these colors, is this color right here is actually a lot darker. This one on paper, even though this one says light violet and this one says violet. Now I have like 15 markers spread out on my table. Good here. Bring our drawing back in. Should be dry. I'm going to come in and erase all those sketch lines. See, a lot of people skip this part. They're drawing. I don't know if there's videos, maybe they just draw it perfectly first time. Or maybe you think they draw perfectly the first time. What you don't know is maybe that person practiced drawing that without having to sketch it out first 100 times. So it's okay. You gotta sketch stuff out. I think the talent of art comes in how you visualize. It's in the brain, not necessarily the skills to make it happen. I think talent as an artist comes in how you visualize things. But then putting it on the paper is hard work. It takes time to get good. A lot of practice, a lot of failed sketches. I usually like to go color group by color group. So here, let's start with the face. I'm gonna come in with my lightest color first before working in the shadows. I'm just gonna come in here. It looks a lot darker on camera, but I promise it's pretty light. Also, the way some of these skin tones are, the way the ink soaks in the paper gets really wet at first. So the color's gonna look darker, and then as it dries off, it'll be much lighter. See from where I'm here. I'm kind of doing little circles where I can and make sure I'm not leaving any gaps in my coloring. But we're definitely gonna come in and do multiple layers. And even with these tight spaces, I'm still trying to use this brush nib instead of switching over to the fine tip. This is low-key too fine. Trying to blend colors together with just fine tip brushes or fine tip tips. You can do it. Just takes more time. Gotta be a little rougher on the paper. This paper I'm using is pretty thick and can handle the beating of multiple layers and really grinding the marker into it. The paper is actually Ohuhu also. This is Ohuhu, the double-sided marker pad. So even though I'm really coming in and soaking in the marker here, if I flip this over, you can't see that I even did a drawing on the other side. So my desk is safe. I don't need to put stuff behind it. The marker's not bleeding through. I love this paper. See what I mean? See, here's where it's super wet to where I started coloring. It'll dry up. I just hit some spots here. Right now I'm gonna come in with that medium color here. Here I'll come in with the fresh fine first and outline my shadows. I don't always do this depending on, right? Only because it's like the face and some stuff here is really detailed. So I really want to get it right. And a lot of times when you're watching anime, it's really like 2 shades. You got like light shade of the color and then the dark shade. I do like to bust in that third level of shadow. I feel like really gives it some pop. Come in here and some of those lines, I kind of over some of the black lines that I made before, so that my black lines aren't super noticeable. And even though I was gonna make this whole right neck area darker, I still put that other color down first. But it still does blend into each other and does change the color. If I just went in raw with this marker onto the white, kind of would talk about what I mean layering the markers. And even here, I kind of came outside the line a little bit. coloring on that jacket. I started again with that lightest shade of purple I got. And this, I'm just gonna fill all this in. I want to come back with the lighter, or the darker markers and all those shadows. It does have that bleed out effect though if I don't be careful. Maybe we go one section at a time, because it is easier to blend. The ink is still wet. I already know right here. Look for that super dark tones here. I didn't even need to go darker. This violet seemed pretty light on oh, you know what? I'm using the wrong violet. If you remember back, that this light violet for whatever reason was actually darker. Look at that. It was actually darker than the regular violet for whatever reason. And whoever puts the labels on these markers. Yeah, there we go. And trace over my outline there with the fine liner. That extra little depth there. Come back in with a second coat. Darken that up and blend in other tones here. See how that looks when it dries up. Let's come in here. Then we come in for some blending and a second coat. Sometimes if you want just a slightly darker shade of the color you're using, you can literally just use the same color again. Come in with a second coat and you can get that slightly darker shade you're looking for. I would have liked a different shade of purple here, but sometimes it's more fun that way when you have limited color options and you change the color scheme. There's no rules. I could have gave her a red jacket if I wanted to. You know, maybe we see how Zoro looks like with red hair. Imagine that. So Sanji calls Zoro Mosshead because of his green hair, but what would Sanji call Zoro if he had red hair? Yeah, we're liking that one. At this point, I've been recording for about an hour and a half since I started. I think is really good compared, like, if I was to do something like this a couple years ago, I would have been hours. Now I don't even think it would have looked this good. It just goes to show you just keep practicing. You don't have time to draw it. That was a big deterrent for me in the past too, is I'm somebody who likes to start what I finish. So like if I knew I didn't have quite enough time to write nice drawing, like I wouldn't want it like this. Or like I have a toddler, so I don't always have 2 hours to dedicate to a drawing. Right now he's asleep. That's why I was doing like the mini Pokemon, right? Those were taking me about 30 minutes or so. We can go even smaller or simpler than that, just kind of working. Like anytime if you can draw something, sometimes it would just be, hey, if I got 15 minutes, can I draw something? And that tends to help out a lot. Say that's 15 minutes that I wouldn't have done before, because I would have felt like, can I really get done? Can I really make something cool in 15 minutes? And it's not always about that. Like, what's one thing that I can practice on? Maybe today, hey, I spent 15 minutes drawing hands. We're working on eye proportions. And then when I do come drawing like this, I have more in my arsenal. Or I've done more reps drawing a face. You can do things quicker and better. Okay, let's clean up some of these markers, make some room on my desk. And now we're gonna bust out the acrylic markers. TBC, the best crafts, 24 acrylic markers, dual tip. And these also have the brush tip. These on Amazon are like, I think it was like $8.99. Okay, the same deal here. I'm gonna use these little focus. There we go. Gonna kind of these, create some highlights, touch up some areas. I think it'll look really good. And like with markers, we're gonna test it on that little pad here, so then I can see what that pink looks like. Then look at that brush tip. Cool thing with these two, they're not very like the paint on too thick, so it doesn't just completely cover up what's the colors that are underneath it. See here, we might be able to use like a yellow. See how bright this is. It'll even show up, you know. Oh yeah, I like that better. Yeah, you can totally see that. Yeah, I think definitely. This is so pop there. Sure about that. There we go. We got Dr. Vegapunk, Lilith. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, support the channel, support each other. Have a good night.